In this lesson, we go over how to create basic color schemes, but this will just be an intro look at how an artist can go about choosing a cohesive theme. This is not supposed to be a set definition on how you have to choose colors. These are just basic color schemes that you can use to start understanding a way of building colors together, because color schemes can be powerful when used effectively and with purpose in mind. So we created a color wheel that you can go ahead and download for yourself, and it's a helpful little guide to see an overview of what we learned throughout this course. So in our layers menu, you can see all the different group folders we have, and each of them represent something different. So at the very bottom, you can see the difference between the modern and the traditional color wheel. And then if I turn on the base wheel outlines, which is represented by the blue folder, we can then see the tint, tone, and shade of each hue, as well as the complementary mixing of the modern color wheel. So for this lesson in particular, I'm going to turn this layer off and the base wheel outline off, and we're going to focus on the green group folders. And let me show you how this works. So we're going to start with the complementary circles. So I'm going to select that layer and turn the layer's visibility on. And you can see how next to them, all of them have rotate me in parentheses. So to rotate, we have to select our move tool, and you can see if you hover over the corner edge, how the move tool now allows you to rotate. So now when we rotate, it'll work its way around the color wheel, and that's how each of these group folders will work. Now for the complementary folder, wherever you drop it off will always show the complementary colors. And the same is true when we pull up our analogous color folder. So make sure not only do you have to select it, but you have to turn on that layer's visibility, and I'm going to turn the complementary visibility off. Then if you rotate the corner, just like we did with the complementary circles, you can see how this will work its way around the color wheel, and it'll always show the analogous color scheme wherever you drop it off. And since we've already talked about the significance of working with complementary and analogous colors, let's talk about the 4 basic color schemes. The first is Triadic. This scheme uses 3 colors equally spaced from each other on the wheel. This tends to be quite vibrant and should feel balanced, but it's recommended to let one color dominate and have the other 2 kind of act as accent colors. And it's easy to remember Triadic because it's a triangle. Now the next one is also a triangle, but it's not evenly spaced like Triadic. And this is the split complementary color scheme. So the split complementary color scheme is a variation of working with just the complementary colors. This has the same strong visual contrast of working with the complements, but it has less tension since in this case it's not blue and yellow, it's blue and then 2 of the analogous colors of yellow. So it's not quite the opposite contrast. Now in the next 2, we are working with 4 colors rather than 3. So in the tetradic color scheme, this uses 4 colors with 2 complementary pairs that are not evenly spaced from one another. So this has a contrast of warm versus cool, so you want to focus on letting one color be dominant, and you'll start to see that as a trend, where you will then have the remaining colors act as accents around one dominant color. And with this one, it's important to see that wherever you drop the slider bar off, you'll most likely be left with 2 warm colors that are close to each other and 2 cool colors that are close to each other. And this will lead to a harmony between those 2 pairs, and the pairs themselves will work well next to each other with the contrast against the pairs on the other side of the color wheel. And lastly, we have the square color scheme. And this one is similar to the tetradic, but it's actually closer to the triadic color scheme because the colors are in perfect unison and spaced equally from one another. So this goes back to the idea of working with a dominant color and having the other 3 work more as accents. Now, like I said earlier, these are just basic color schemes that you can use to build your palettes, but don't see this as a guide that you have to follow, and you should be taking liberties with color, and the best way to understand color is to experiment. So start testing out different colors, and if you want to use this as a base for finding your colors, that's great, and then over time you'll see what colors you're most comfortable with and work with in your own pieces.